I'll turn my volume up, and I will turn, I guess so, I will turn y'all's volume up, and I'll switch us over. So, greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome back to the Inn of Planar Crossroads. Welcome back to our Around the Hearth series, where we talk about different things going on just in the tabletop community in general, or in different things that we want to talk about with tabletop. We're going to be talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition over here on the Inn of Planar Crossroads. And first off, a disclaimer. This is an adult podcast that sometimes features adults talking about adult things or using adult language. You have been warned. We usually keep it around a 1980s PG-13.
Yeah, we do what we can, but sometimes Tommy has to stay up till 4 a.m. editing Kane on A House Divided.
Oh.
Which sucks because I'm cutting out all the funny parts. Like, all the parts where we're laughing the hardest are not good for people, so I have to cut them out.
What you should totally do is every time somebody says a cuss word, just have like a stock quack sound or something. Like, rah, 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 rah.
We talked about it.
I told him I just wanted him to put the beep over it, because that's classic. It's comedy gold right there.
I'll do that if we kick out Connor, because then it's manageable.
Yeah.
Speaking of House Divided, if you want to go and look at House Divided as a game and watch it, you can do that over on Black Dragon Gaming, of which Tommy is the proprietor.
Yeah, we're also really bad. Kane almost died. It's real rough.
I mean, I was killing dudes pretty good right up until I got beaten to death.
That's usually how it goes, you know?
Fighters.
But all that said, to say that we've made our disclaimer. As far as Patreons, both channels have Patreons going, so as for the Inn of Planar Crossroads, if we get to $50 a month, we're going to give away a full rulebook of your choice, within reason, people. Don't just say, I want the most expensive collector's edition rulebook. I want a Rise of the Rune Lords collector's edition. No, don't go doing that, because that's like $200. But, you know, something within reason. We will give a rulebook away. If when we get to 100 on this channel, we are going to give a special edition of something away. If our Patreon reaches $100 a month, we're going to give away a special edition Pathfinder 2E playtest rulebook, which is leather bound, faux leather bound, I think, and gold lettering and all that type of stuff. You can see a picture on the playtest site. Our current session, our current video is what we talked about before with the Around the Hearth. Our next subscriber appreciation one-shot is going to be at 200, and we've been floating around 180, so we should be 200 before the end of June, or it'll depend, but probably before the end of June. Our giveaway for the month of May is going to be our D20 Critical Hit mug. So there you go. If you want to win that, you can enter at the giant tier or higher as a patron, and you're automatically put in for that. So, I believe that's everything. Tommy, you have anything you want to say before we start in on our chat about the gear?
Now let's get to it.
All right. So we're going.
There's a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about our feelings about the Gearing Up blog post, the Paladin blog post, Backgrounds blog post, and Building Monster blog post, which just come out today. So, hopefully this will be fun. It'll probably like a preemptive thing for the feelings of Black Dragon Gaming on the Building Monsters one, which he will be releasing on his channel tomorrow, usually. Well, this will
Tuesday
come
morning,
out
8 a.m., yeah.
Yeah, this will come out after that, so it's not like a preemptive. But oh well. These are his real feelings, what he couldn't say in the video.
Yeah, from the future or the past. I can't remember.
There we go. All right. So, let me see. Just because I want to roll the dice, we'll see who goes first. Oh. We're going to Gearing Up, and we're going to me first, apparently. So, Well, I guess there's only a few of us, so we can go to the gearing up one
Chaos
now.
theory
And
and
not
all
have to worry
things.
about- Yeah, so we don't need to roll.
Well, if we're starting with gearing up, we might as well just do the oldest blog post to the newest. So we'll start with gearing up, and then backgrounds, and then building monsters. And
Right. I meant I was rolling to see which one of us went first, but like I said, there's only a few of us, so we can all just kind of talk, I think.
everyone at once, go.
Go.
Yeah, and suddenly we'll all get real bad latency, and we'll all talk over each other, and it's going to be great.
There you go. So, I'm liking what they're doing with the gear, and the things that are going on for that. As far as how it's going to be affecting AC, I love how they're doing shields. I think I am in the majority on that feeling.
Oh, yeah.
I have a little up and down on shields. I'm not. I get why they take an action out of the 3. Like, that makes sense. You have to take an action to raise your shield to actively defend yourself. So you can choose to either attack or take an action, or spend time to defend yourself. I think that makes sense. That's balanced. But since it takes an action to defend yourself instead of it just being a static bonus that exists all the time, I'm hoping that as the system develops, as we hear more about feats and stuff, that action in combat in the turn order, like raising your shield to defend yourself, will interact with other feats or classes or class archetypes, like the bodyguard or in harm's way feat, that they'll somehow be tied to the raise your shield action.
Mm-hmm. That does sound like a something that I'm also expecting from them. That sounds like something that Paizo would do with the way we've seen first edition run anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Tommy did point
because
out
I would like it if sorry, go ahead.
Tommy did point
I was
out
gonna
on
say,
his that the
go ahead, Adam.
that the Donald made it. Tommy did point out
Donald!
on his
Howdy.
video that basically your armor is going to encompass your cloak of resistance as well.
Yeah, that's really
potency
sweet.
runes.
That's kind of like in 5e. I think it was the Ring of Protection gave you a resistance bonus. For my very little time in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, I think the Ring of Protection is a +1 to your saves as well. And it's one less thing you have to hunt down, which is less gold, which is more gold that you can spend on, like, for example, like your players like Mal and Rune Lords, if they want to go buy literally every cinnamon roll in Magnamar, they aren't penalized for doing so later on in the game. And I really like that.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of gear, can we hop back to first edition, current edition Pathfinder really quick?
Mhm.
And can Tommy explain to me and everyone listening exactly what the core, like the 6 are? Because I didn't know what the 6 were before I started playing with you guys.
Okay, so to be successful, I'm going to air quote, but I believe in this because, like, I probably believe in this because I have a lot of competitive players. We all came from competitive Magic the Gathering to this, so it's like it's in our blood to be good. But to be good at Pathfinder, you need a Cloak of Resistance, Ring of Protection, Amulet of Natural Armor. Depending on your class, you need a headband or belt, sometimes both. Like the Magus will want to pump his intelligence in is probably Dex, maybe Strength, I've seen both, as well as Magic Armor, Magic Weapon. There are obviously, like, some classes will need some things that some other classes will not. And, like, in higher level play, there's the manuals and tomes that will further buff your ability scores that are really nice. But if you don't have those items in Pathfinder First Edition, as you level up, the disparity between how powerful you are, and this is especially true if you don't have spells, and how powerful the bad dudes are, it begins to just do this, and you stand no chance. Well, I won't say that, because it's still, the game is RNG. If you roll great, you roll great. If you roll bad, it doesn't matter what you have, you're just dead on the floor.
Yeah, and I can attest to that, because I've taken games 1 to 20 where we were running under Connor as a GM, and he was still very into GMing and wasn't very good at wealth by level. So I think we spent most of the game with little to no actual gear. It was just stuff that, like, we had picked off dead monsters. mostly like off their stat blocks. Like we killed an ice devil and we got a +5 trident of frost, which was worth a lot of money, but I don't even know if we ever ended up selling it. I think our barbarian might have just picked it up and ended up using it.
Sounds about right. Yeah, like when I played Sinvolka, that's who I'm playing in House Divided. When I played him the first time with Joe in what is still going to be a low magic setting in a House Divided, despite the prevalence of the full casters, I don't think he never had a magic weapon that whole time till like his god handed him an axe and then it got broken, which was real sad. But like it was non-magical tomahawks that had the anchoring quality and the returning quality for my birthday. And that was it. So you can make it work. Like if the GM realizes what they're doing, then yeah, great. But like a really good example of this, and I'm using this because I know most of us here can relate. Rise of the Rune Lords, the end of book 2, there's a real powerful Lamia matriarch. And if you're not ready for her, not only, spoilers for Rise of the Rune Lords, not only do you probably not disbelieve the whatever illusion she's cast, she can teleport, I think she's venomous. Well, she's a snake lady, she better be venomous. She has spells of her own, and I know this because there was some compulsion thrown at the orc who got real lucky. You just can't keep up.
Well, I don't know. You guys could keep up. I think the situation was there was, by skipping a lot of that book, by skipping a lot of that adventure, you skipped a lot of the rewards of experience and not just experience, but wealth that might have come from
like
it
loot
and stuff. So
yeah,
you guys,
which
did.
I understand is kind of a problem inherent to adventure paths.
Yeah.
Right.
But it made it very. I was quite pleased with how well she was performing. But
yeah, it made for a very tense fight right up until Gideon lopped her head off.
Right until Greg got really good dice rolls exactly when he needed them, which is great because I had 2 hit points.
I was gonna
And
say,
I was in ferocity.
Like
I
Greg
had this many.
constantly gets really good dice roll.
Well, see,
He's pretty good
technically,
at stuff. What can I say?
I was also running crits wrong in the sense of I was saying, oh, you crit and then you don't confirm. So that whole not confirming thing was running me weird. But that whole
Now, see, I think that's something that a lot of people screw up. Not necessarily that like the crit must be confirmed, but the crit has to hit. Like if I add 10, we'll say easy math, and I roll a 15 with my keen katana, and it's a 25 to hit. If his armor class is 26, it is not a critical threat. There's a lot of real like this big rules in Pathfinder First Edition that I think a lot of GMs just like they just straight don't know them, and ignorance of the rules becomes a broken meta. That's one thing I like about Second Edition is I think we're gonna see those just way less moving forward because it's gonna be so simplified. But you're still gonna have all the mutability.
Yeah, you're still
like,
going to have some nice complexity with crits won't feel as crits won't. You could have crit fishers, but they're not going to be a lot different than just a regular fighter too, because they're going to focus on getting that hit. That's what they're going to focus on because that's how crits work in Pathfinder 2e because you got to beat it by a certain amount. But that's not gear. That's not gear. We got to stay focused. Gotta stay focused.
I believe the word the blog used was squidgy.
Yeah, that was a good word.
Yeah. We can talk about how tool and item quality matters now, because we have the 5 tiers of quality. We have poor, normal, expert, master, and legendary quality items. And I may have just missed it somewhere in the blog posts, but I wasn't certain whether or not you require the class proficiency to get the equipment proficiency bonus.
I don't think that's the case. I think like Johnny the fighter can pick up the thieves' tools, have no idea like how they work, and still I think he takes like a -1 or -2 for non-proficient, but I imagine the best thieves' tools in the world mitigate it. Again, I could have missed it too, but I'm pretty sure anybody could at least try.
Yeah, but I mean for stuff like I wasn't sure. I got kind of like a little crossed on the weapon proficiencies that the classes have. Like if obviously a wizard wouldn't be proficient in a longsword, but like if a wizard who's proficient with a dagger picked up like a legendary quality dagger but doesn't have like a legendary proficiency in daggers, would he still get the legendary quality bonus?
I believe so. I think it's an item bonus to an attack roll from like a legendary dagger, and then he has his own proficiency bonus that takes up as he levels.
Right. I think that's how they're
Also-
going to work it. It's similar to how 5e works, but it's not exactly the same from what I'm seeing, because the item bonus is the item bonus, and then the proficiency bonus is the proficiency bonus. They don't have to match to be the same, to my understanding.
Yeah, so they'll stack with each other like disparate numerical bonuses do already.
Right.
All right. I was kind of. It'll depend on how it hashes out in the meta after it gets out, but the interact and manipulate idea with certain items, that may be good and that may be bad depending on how many actions this thing's going to take and stuff like that, because it's going to be individualized with each item that has an interact quality from what I'm seeing. So
yeah,
I'm not sure how that'll get fleshed out, but that does seem a bit tinkery to fit with the rest of the game, because that can get really squidgy really quick.
Yeah. I think the interact quality is going to end up on items like potions and stuff, so you have to spend an action. Instead of it being like a whole sort of dirtily messed with the action economy where you have to like retrieve an item, then like interact with the item and then get like benefit from the item, you just spend an action on your turn to interact with the item and then get the benefit.
Yeah,
So
I think that's correct
instead
as
of
well.
having to spend like 3/5 of your turn to retrieve a potion and drink it, you just spend one of your 3 actions.
Yeah.
And you won't spend 5 minutes trying to figure out how many fifths of your turn to drink
Yeah.
that potion in the first place.
Exactly how all of that pieces together.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or when to space
Which
it
I
within
think
your
is good
move.
because it makes it a little more accessible.
Yeah. All right. So any other comments about gear before we move on to the Paladin?
Nah, I've got a lot to say about the Paladin, actually. Turns out there was some stuff I missed. So, like, I am ready to get over there.
Okay, so really quick. Armor now also applies to your touch armor class, which we're calling TAC or TAC in second edition.
Much better than CAC.
Weight.
I'm just saying.
Yes, much better than CAC. I will miss being able to say, "Oh, he got me right in my CAC," but I suppose that's probably for the best.
Probably.
Weight has been simplified down to the bulk system, which we already see implemented in Starfinder, which I like. I think using the bulk system is just faster and better
Oh my god,
and
yeah.
easier.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having a bunch of like, dirtily individual weight quantities. And I'm curious if other equipment will carry other traits coming forward. I don't know if they're going to mention that in other blogs. We're going to have to wait for the official playtest or the full release. Because right now we have qualities on armor like noisy, which I'm assuming imposes some kind of penalty on your stealth check. And then we have all the weapon qualities, which was talked about in another blog post, like backswing and powerful and what. And the interact quality that appears on some equipment. I'm curious if we're going to see other equipment qualities show up on just normal equipment that isn't weapons or armor.
Yeah, that other mundane equipment will be interesting. I do think that with this system they're going to have a lot. GMs and Paizo itself will have a lot more flexibility to throw really interesting or different or weird items out there that could be employed and worked with by the players. I think that was their goal with that.
Mm-hmm.
So. All right. Ready to get to Paladins.
Oh, yeah. May I go first?
Okay.
Okay, so there's 2 things I missed. and they were released. One of them was a typo on the Paladin blog. The other one was a thing that wasn't said. It was said on Paizo has a Twitch stream every Friday, and I didn't realize, like, I watched the first one, but I didn't realize there was going to be a bunch of, like, more stuff revealed on those streams, so I haven't been watching them. I suppose I know what I'm doing on Fridays. The two things we missed: the first one, Paladins have spell points, and that's what they lose if they do the anathemas and stuff like that, which, like, I don't think it was set in stone that Paladins just straight up won't be spellcasters in 2nd edition, but I think that's what it leads to. The second thing is that Detect Evil is now a feat. Not every Paladin does it. It is a feat, and it's a constant. It's not like the 3 rounds of there's the presence or absence, now there's 5, and haha, now you make a will save. You found the Baelor, and it will kill you. It's not like that. It's just, it's always there, and it's always on, like, they said, like, akin to Spidey senses. Even when you're asleep, it's there. I don't know how I feel about it. I, like, it's really cool, I guess, because it makes it a little less tedious to have to, like, stop Detect Evil and then attack. But it also, like, it feels real iconic to the Paladin, and they're pulling it away from them. I guess I get why, because I'm sure there's plenty of Paladins that don't detect evil. They detect Greatsword in their dome, and we'll figure it out. Pharasma's got this.
Well,
it's just, like, that's big. That's real huge.
Yeah. I, as someone who loves Paladins, don't... That's the first I'm hearing of it, and that's the first thing about the Pathfinder 2E, and Paladins especially, that I feel I don't like. I don't like constant Detect Evil. I guess I would be okay, since you have to invest a feat into it. No, I still don't like it, though. Because, sure, it's iconic, but when is a Paladin ever going to work? If they can sense it all the time on everybody around them, when are they ever going to choose to bother at first level to pair up with a bunch of other people they know are evil because they're pinging on them?
Well, that's a matter of RP between the players, I would think. Also, like, since we know that illusions can detect magic at higher levels, you imagine evil auras at higher levels can deceive a low-level paladins detect evil in much the same way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think the problem then becomes, like, at first level, if you're starting out with, like, one of Greg's, a number of Greg's serial killer characters, his many shades of the Joker.
Yeah.
Or, like, a character like that. If you have a paladin in your party, like, how do you reconcile that? Is that something that you... I feel like that's something you have to talk about as a play group before then. If, like, you know, or you're just... Maybe your paladin just doesn't take Detect Evil as a feat at first level. Which leads me into... do you feel like, given how mechanically beneficial having an all-the-time radar going on is, do you think that Detect Evil as a feat would become feat tax? Like, it would be mandatory, like power attack on a fighter? Like, you have to have it?
Oh God, maybe. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, that's.
I think it depends on the scope of the campaign. Truly, like. Okay, so we're only 4 sessions deep into House Divided, so I can't really, like, I can't speak too hard about this. But I've tried to use my Detect Evil, or not my Detect Evil, rather my Smite Evil twice as Sin Volca. Both times it's failed to go off because they're both, I think they were chaotic neutrals is what I was targeting. The point is, if you want to play a paladin in a setting where you're going to be fighting chaotic neutral bandits or lawful neutral, like Captain America, the Winter Soldier level arbiters of justice that have gone too far, or the druids are getting real crazy, true neutral, or anything in between, like, you don't need Detect Evil because you'll never use it. So I'm cool with it. That said, it's, before I could call it a tax, I'd have to see the whole list, because we're going to have class feats, ancestry feats, and I think skill feats as well. So it depends on what hits where before I can say that it's a tax.
Well, like we said, it is one of the characteristic things of a paladin to be able to detect evil. And the price of having to do it over several rounds meant that you didn't just do it in mid combat, because it would take 3 rounds. So there was that mitigating factor of, hey, it's good that you know this. Now that you know it, take action, and you stop doing it and you go do the other stuff. And then that's what your Smite Evil was for. It was for combat. If you're a paladin that can't detect evil, why are you doing paladin stuff if you're not going to be able to detect the bad guys? Because
I feel like that can also be like,
if it's a constant feat that no matter what, you know when somebody's evil or not, and it even works while you're sleeping, so that you know if you're getting snuck up on or not by someone who's evil. I think that might be problematic.
and this is why we have playtests.
Yeah, for sure.
This is definitely a playtest thing.
Because that seems like a weird, like, either you have it or it's on all the time kind of thing. It's a weird choice to make for an ability like Detect Evil. The only other thing I could say about it would be Paladins still get spell points, right? Like they're still technically spellcasters.
They get spell points. They use the spell points to fuel. You imagine like lay on hands and mercies and stuff like that. Again, it's class feats.
I feel okay. So if they still have spell points, and I don't know if it said this in the blog post or not, or if they're going to expand on this later. Maybe you can spend spell points to cast an effect like the Detect Evil spell. So instead of you take the feat and it's on all the time, or alternatively you don't take the feat, it's not on all the time, and if you want to detect evil, you spend expendable resources like your spell points to ping people.
That is entirely possible. Or perhaps what they're trying to do is like say you're trying to play like the hospitalers, I don't know how to say it, like you want to invest all your everything into just laying on as many hands as you can lay on, and then you might not necessarily you might not need Detect Evil. Again, it's also it's a very meta choice, which is it goes against the flavor to do that, and it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth as I say it. But it's if you know you won't use it, then you would logically take something else, right? It's just a dead class feature.
It's a French word, Tommy. You don't really pronounce the R.
Oh, thank you. Hospitalier!
Pretty much. It's like the chevalier.
Ah, got it. I learned something today.
There we go. I'm getting back to what's actually in the blog post, because I could go on about several reasons why I actually don't like the idea of taking it as a feat. But that aside, quest for the I'm looking at the headings on here. Paladins are locked to lawful good. Okay, so I know
for now.
Yeah, Kane has a little timer for himself or something like that, he said. But,
if we go over, I'm just going to mute all of you on the recording.
Don't?
Yeah.
No, you're real quiet, bud.
I think you might be talking to somebody at his house.
Well, I'm of the opinion that Paladins should be lawful good. Now, I am open to the idea, because they're already talking about codes and codes of conduct. I'm open to the idea if they have a class that has a paladin oath, like a champion or knight or something like that. And they call it that, and they say Knight Paladin, the Paladin code, and the anti-paladin code, and then the code of the paladin, the code of justice, the code of the paladin, the code of the judge, and the code of the tyrant, or something like that. For each of the lawfuls, even branching out into all 9 alignments being represented. The code of balance, I'd be okay with that if they did it that way. Either I'm of the opinion you either keep them locked to lawful good, or you change the way that you change the name of the class and you have an oath of the paladin. But that's just how I.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with you on that. I think paladin from the very beginning should have, well, because like originally, if you go back to like AD&D and OD&D, the Paladin is actually a branch of the fighter class, but that's not important right now. I think that the Paladin should have been, in later editions where they became their own class, should have been renamed like Champion of the Faith or something. So your lawful good Paladins or your neutral good Paladins even would, of course, be like they would be Paladins. They would have a Paladin code. They would follow the strictures of their lawful good deity. You know, they'd be good all the time. But I think, like, even like earlier on, they should have made the executive decision to be like, well, okay, so we have this class that's a champion of his specific faith, but he's like locked up in this teeny tiny tower up on the top right of the 9-piece alignment chart. What happened to the other 8? Like, why is there no? Where's your champion of the chaotic good gods? You know, where's your champion of Cade and Kayleen? Where's your champion of the green faith? Which I think there might actually be a class. It's a druid. It's a druid. Where's your champion of your champion of Asmodeus? You know, where's your champion of Rovagug? Which I suppose is
the anti-paladin,
but we've already talked about why anti-paladins are bad. And I think that it would have been easier to just take that one class and make them more modular than it would have been to make one class that did one thing for one very small list of gods or ideals. If you're playing with, you can do a cleric that exonerates an ideal instead of a specific deity.
Yeah, I do that all the time when I play clerics. I also I kind of think the reason everybody gets so upset about this is because it's a thing that was written down once. Paladins are lawful good, and that's stuck for like however long Paladins have been with us. And so when anybody talks about changing it, either they're like everybody's real down because they want to change it because like they like neutral good, chaotic neutral, blase, or they want to hold on to this this thing that's existed forever. And no, it says this, and they get all real mad about it and stuff. I am of the opinion that, like, I respect the lawful good paladin, I respect the flavor, I respect the role play. It's like, it's iconic. By that same notion, you can have it, it can be the same thing, but you can also, like, by just, like, mess with the class a little, and I think you can easily do that with oaths, with anathema, even with just archetypes, as long as the archetypes don't trade out. I guess it's not as big a deal now, because Divine Grace is a reaction, not a constant. Because that was my thing, like, Grey Paladins, I'm pretty sure, lost Divine Grace, so why would you play it?
Yeah, and they're Smite Evil, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's real bad. But, like, if you want to be the champion of chaotic neutral, or the champion of true neutral, or, like, any of the alignments or whatever beliefs, like, as much as I really like Pathfinder, the argument I make for it all the time is, like, 5e's done it, and Wizards of the Coast has it burned to the ground. I think we'd be fine.
No, they're printing money.
Yeah, there you go. But I totally get why people feel that way. What's up, Donald?
Still can barely hear you.
Sounds like you're underwater, Ben.
Yeah.
Canada's flooding, but not Kane's part.
No, which is weird because I live in a swamp, right?
But
pretty much most of Alberta's just swampland.
Fair enough.
I can, like I said, I'm okay with the change in Paladins if they make it to where the name Paladin stays for the lawful goods, and they did, if they call them Divine Champions instead, or something like that, or just Champions. The Divine Champions set's kind of easier because they do follow some kind of divine tenet. That's kind of an idea of a Paladin. But give the name Paladins to the Paladin, give the name, because that would really set them apart, in my opinion, because you would have 5e does it kind of, but you're still a Paladin. Why use the same term if you're going to change the class that much? Call them a champion and give the oath of the Paladin, the oath of the Tyrant, the oath of the Destroyer, the oath of balance, the oath of freedom. all those different things. That would give it a lot more flavor than just.
It's almost like 9 different archetypes in that one class without archetyping.
Well, it's just there's like that would basically just be rehauling the vows or the oaths that exist in Pathfinder.
Yeah, which they're doing. Those are going to be mainstays for like the core paladin in second edition. It's not just an archetype.
Yeah, but like I absolutely agree, Adam. I feel like right now the meta with the paladin is just kind of they're clinging to a tradition that started in 1976 with around like the second edition era, and we just sort of carried it forward and no one ever questioned it.
Right. So
and then you have all these guys who've had it forever, and then they don't want to let go.
Right, because it is. Paladins are my favorite class, not because of... They're my favorite class because I'm lawful good. So there's a twinge of personal stuff in there, but otherwise, yeah.
As you have to say, is Kazaha not chaotic good?
Yeah, but you let me be chaotic good.
Aha, chaotic good paladin, haha. Kane runs away, I've called you out on it.
I don't know that that's a call-out. It's your rules, not the official rules.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's... like all my games are you're within one step of your deity.
Yeah.
Well, and like you're still... A chaotic good paladin should still be smiting evil anyways.
Yeah.
But enough about the alignments, because we're going to take up all the time. Oaths and the way paladins work have changed. As far as that's going, you got the anathemas. Litanies should be cool because they're like slow casts that you could do, and not slow casts. They're things you can specifically target against things, which work really well as a simple verbal casting. But the main change that I've also seen contention about is the paladin's ability to use poison. There we go.
I feel like we
I've
need a
seen some
separate
contention
video off of that.
Just for that. We might.
I think that like you got to bear in mind the reason this is happening. I think like it's not about like messing with the paladin. It's about the fact that alchemy is going to be so huge in second edition. Like the alchemist is no longer a caster. Alchemy is this big old thing that they're putting into the core, and everybody should have a piece of it because it's this brand new idea that Paizo's rolled out. I think that's exactly why we're seeing paladins get poison. It might also be a little bit of like give the other side a little, like the people who say the paladin should be anti-alignment, let them have poison, so we can like, because Paizo said that once the playtest concludes, the paladin may change. This may be like the first like walk back from the top left corner of the alignment chart to see like how many people lose their minds.
Yeah. As someone, I have been frustrated in the past that a paladin couldn't use poison because there are non-lethal poisons, and they're still called poisons, but like drow poison does not kill you, but it will paralyze you.
It just sets up the coup de grace.
Yeah. Well, how good would that be for a paladin who's trying to be non-lethal with these villagers who have been mind controlled? But he can still choose to do non-lethal damage, but he's having to take a negative to it. What if he had a recourse to where he had, fine, I can save you from yourself type situation, coat his blade and go to town, and probably crit. See, that's the problem.
Yeah, that or like you're trying to put down a riot or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So
another thing to consider is with backgrounds coming out and how very, very versatile characters are going to be in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Imagine, if you will, like a paladin of, and this is assuming we're going to keep that box, a paladin of Erastil who has I think one of the backgrounds, it hadn't come out yet, but one of the backgrounds is called Animal Speaker. So like a druidy flavored paladin who lives maybe not like in a shack in the woods, but like can exist in the wild. And say he runs out of what is poisonous, a snake. He runs into a snake in the wild, and he can use this poison. So, like, God forbid, when the stone giant attacks the town, he can kill the stone giant quicker, save the people, do his thing. Erastil is pleased, right? Is that not only is it the more intelligent thing, again, like drow poison for the mind-controlled villagers, it's also like directly up that Paladin's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Alex isn't here to defend himself, so poison is a tool. I don't get it. If Korean Jesus or whoever it is I worship says that I'm allowed to poison people, then I'm going to do it because it's more efficient. If literally nothing else, it is more efficient to poison people so they die faster. Or in Adam's case, so they go to nappy nap time and they can't hurt me or themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
That yeah.
Unless Korean Jesus gives me a divine power nap attack, it's not gonna help me out.
All right.
You know, I agree completely.
So let's move on. Since we've said our piece briefly about the Paladin, I'm sure we could go on, but
we could.
Let's move on to Everyone Has a Past, or that's the background one, which actually looks pretty cool. And for those that are listening, that are saying, oh, they're just ripping off 5e, blah, 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 remember that the stuff that 5e gets touted for as being innovative, Pathfinder did it first. Pathfinder was what had traits first, which tied into your background. 5e gets all the glory for it, but Pathfinder did it first, incorporating your background into the mechanics. There's lots of things that Pathfinder did first that 5e saw and was that Dungeons and Dragons saw and was like, that's working well for them. Let's incorporate that into ours. So Pathfinder's naturally building upon not just what happened with 5e, but also mainly what's happening with their own, because these don't feel like 5e backgrounds. As someone who's played a couple characters in 5e, these don't feel specifically like 5e backgrounds. They feel there's that first part, there's a little bit there that does feel like it, but the way it changes your actual ability boosts so that you're flavoring what type of, in this case, a street urchin or a blacksmith you were, that makes a big difference in the lore of what you're doing. And you get certain lore, which is both traity and 5e. So there is that. Other opinions?
Yeah, I just have to, I'm playing a 5th edition one-shot on Saturday, and I literally just made a character, yesterday for this, and I just need to remind myself. Okay, yeah. In 5th edition, the backgrounds don't give ability score boosts, let alone ability score boosts that you can tailor to your own character. For example, I'm not looking at it right now, but if I remember correctly, the blacksmith was +2 to strength or intelligence, one or the other, you chose, and then +2 to whatever you wanted. One of them just had to be strength or int, which is so, I wouldn't have ever thought intelligence, but intelligence seems to be the one that we're getting in spades, in at least from the 3 we've seen, which is great. And it denotes the whole, how you're making your character and where the numbers are coming from and how we have to all put our 4d6 away. I think, well, there will be a roll-up mechanic as well, but in the playtest, they want you to do the background and the ancestry and stuff like that. In 5e, you get skill proficiencies, sometimes languages, sometimes, flavorful equipment. In addition to, again, you are giving yourself the ability scores that define your character, you get a bonus feat out of it, and a bonus, they don't call them knowledge, they call them lore checks in Pathfinder 2nd edition, and from the way they're worded, it looks like the lore checks are going to be really, really open-ended in such a way that you can sync whatever into whatever, because the Pathfinder Society Hopeful, I think something like that is what's called, gives you lore Pathfinder Society, again, if I remember correctly, and who is even rolling that at all in your given, in all the games I've ever played, I need to go ask the Pathfinder Society. No, that's just a knowledge local, right? Yeah. So I imagine if, for your background, if you want to, specifically be a person who bakes cakes, you can buff your strength from carrying 20 million bags of flour every day, buff your charisma because you're selling cakes, and then you have
if you want to be cakes. Gaston from the one shot we did, then the food one shot we did.
There you go. Right there it is.
Or I could definitely see Mal playing a baker who just just bake stuff. That's what he does. He
Yeah.
bakes stuff for the party, and that's where his healing comes from. Is his food is just so good that it works.
It literally mends your flesh, or it's so bad that it kills you.
Serves you.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. You could revive him. His soul is now free. You could revive him in the broken universe. Hits
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring him back, and I'm gonna bring Hits back as a follower of Barkal. Can't
Oh.
you can't you're not gonna get away with killing him off screen like that.
Fair. I'll just have to kill him on screen.
Oh,
All right.
just put me in a room. Just lock me in a ladder factory.
With
Yeah.
a bunch of gugs, and they'll play basketball with you, and it'll be great.
Not in the ladder factory. I've got all them improvised weapon proficiencies. I've got turbo reach.
So Blacksmith, Street Urchin, and Pathfinder Hopeful were the ones that they highlighted. Actually, even if you're playing in a homebrew, if you're in a setting like 5 guilds, or if you have guilds in your game, you could actually change Pathfinder Hopeful to Guild Hopeful and just switch
That is
out the
true.
lore. And it works great for just homebrewing that right up. It instantly it homebrews itself. It homebrews itself.
Did
Put
we?
it all.
Okay. I thought we lost Adam there for a second.
I did too.
Oh.
I was gonna say, like, backgrounds seem real easy to tailor to anything. Like,
Yeah, they look really versatile and simple to homebrew because you need like 2 ability score boosts, one which is assigned, like the mandatory strength or intelligence, and then one is free. You get 1 feat, which is background centric. So you get the crafting feats to the pickpocket feats if you're a blacksmith or a street urchin, respectively. And then you're trained in whatever relevant lore skill. I'm not certain how many lore skills there are going to be, but or if those are going to be somehow intrinsically tied to the backgrounds specifically. So you might have to get a little dirtily with that, but they look super simple to just either tailor existing ones or make your own.
I'm
for sure.
I'm thinking that they're going to do a lore thing like because lore is technically an alternate rule in Pathfinder 1E, I believe, where you can use lore on different things instead of having a bunch of knowledges in it. I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to
lore,
focus with.
the alternate skill system for like lore and artistry in first edition is a couple of extra skill points you get every level to sort of focus into like a hyper specific knowledge. So you could take lore like Andorran taverns, or even just like the taverns from a specific region of Andorran. And then I can't remember the specifics about artistry, but they're kind of like craft and knowledge skills, but much more specific. And they're just sort of there to give you a little extra, maybe unique depth to your character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for those wanting,
and I think
for those that are actually curious about how many there are going to be, it says 19 backgrounds and 6 more in the backgrounds of the playtest module that they're coming out with, which will, I think, all this is going to be free for PDF, from what I understand, is of Doomsday Dawn. So you're going to get 25 different backgrounds to start off with, and compared to what you got with 5e and the backgrounds they come out with right off the bat, that's a lot.
It really is, yeah.
I don't remember playing the 5e playtest. I think there were maybe 5 or 6 backgrounds to pick from.
Yeah. I mean,
Imagine. Go ahead, Kane.
they had to errata one of them real quick because one of the backgrounds gave you a free first level spell.
Damn.
yeah.
Yeah, there
Sounds
was a
really
lot
good.
of fighters running around with Shocking Grasp.
Magic lineage.
That's how you say magus. Yeah, oh, for sure. I also think we're going to see backgrounds in 2nd edition a lot like we see... I'm looking in my Starfinder core book at the moment because I need to remember exactly what they're called. They're not called backgrounds in Starfinder, but it's the same idea. And
Careers?
Not careers, themes. That's called themes.
Themes.
It's going to be a lot like that for those of us who have picked up the Pact Worlds book. It's a real good book. In addition to extra races, extra archetypes, which entirely different conversation, can go on any class. There's also every single planet in the Pact World system has its own theme attached to it. So I imagine Paizo, when they're like every month, when here's the adventure path and the like player's guide to this place and like the bestiary, it's going to be just chock full of more backgrounds because you can generate them so easy.
Mm-hmm.
Literally just A, B, C, name, go.
So before we move on to building monsters, I just want to briefly touch on archetypes, like you mentioned. Do you think they're going to work like they do in Starfinder, where the archetypes are more broad and you can slap them on any class like a template? Or do you think they're going to be more specific like they are in first edition Pathfinder? And which would you prefer?
I'll say that in first edition Pathfinder, it feels like, and this is the blatant snob-nosed min-maxer here, it feels like some of the archetypes are just like mandatory strictly betters than a lot of things. For example, the vivisectionist rogue you can play like...
You mean alchemist?
Yeah, excuse me. I'm trying to you take a little bit of rogue, a little bit of alchemist, whip them together, and you have a rogue with spellcasting. I forget exactly what traits you have to take. I think there's a bomber trait, so you lose nothing from that, and then you just it's like dip vivisectionist, run rogue the rest of the way, or the other way around. Regardless, it's strictly better than just the vanilla rogue.
Yeah.
By that same logic. Good.
You can say the same thing about the rogue. The vanilla rogue, if you take underground alchemist, or is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Underground alchemist, you get bombs that deal damage. You a number of bombs per day equal to your intelligence modifier that do damage that is equal to your sneak attack. And then you also get it gives you the ability to deal sneak attack damage with splash weapons, including alchemist bombs. And then you take a rogue discovery called Bomber, which gives you a number of bombs per day equal to your intelligence modifier, and then you're just throwing alchemist bombs that do damage equal to your sneak attack, and then you're sneak attacking with those alchemist bombs that do damage equal to... doing double
Blood
sneak
Rager.
attack.
I don't know if it's been eroded or if it's just straight up society banned, but it's at 4th level, and every 4 levels thereafter, a primalist either takes the bloodline power of his bloodline or 2 barbarian rage powers, which makes the primalist just strictly better. I remember reading it somewhere that all barbarians are blood ragers, all blood ragers are primalists.
Well,
so with that in mind, if the archetypes can be a little more broad, and it's just my wizard is especially good. I think we'll see this in backgrounds, really. But my wizard is especially good at stealing stuff, or my fighter read a book once and he remembers, he's got knowledge, that kind of thing. If it works that way, then I think that's really cool. Also, I think that I would remember that Pathfinder and Starfinder, as much as 2nd edition is taking from what's working in Starfinder, I think you're going to see this as it goes on. They're 2 separate entities for sure. So I wouldn't be surprised if even I remember Eric Mona, he was in one of the Paizo forums and he asked everybody 5 archetypes you can't live without in Pathfinder 2nd edition, go. So I don't think if we're not ready to let the Paladin leave the corner, I think we'll have archetypes the same way. That said, if they can make it work to where I think a lot of archetypes will be class feats. For example, the at 12th level where he can use his shield to block for his friend, which kind of feels like the Phalanx fighter. So if we can simplify it that way in such a way that I don't have to take an archetype and I can just grab this feat, that feat, and the archetypes are just on top, that's great. But if it stays exactly the same as first edition, I'm fine with that too.
Adam?
I'd like it if the traits, or not the traits, the archetypes, I'm okay with how they function right now. I wouldn't mind it if they were more templatey, that could go on anybody that qualified for them, similar to how prestige classes do. But that could get kind of taxy on your characters. So I don't know. I don't want to run into the same thing like you guys are talking about, where you have one archetype that is just strictly better. If you're a barbarian, you should always be a totem barbarian unless you have something else specific in mind, because then you can take the totem feats. And so on and so forth. So I guess I'm open for either one as long as it's done well. I kind of like the idea of templates. Especially if you base them more around story and what's happening in game. Maybe base them around what they're doing in their downtime as well. Like they have to spend a certain, because they've talked before about how they're breaking up the game into 3 specific modes. You've got exploration mode, you've got combat mode, and you have basically downtime mode. And those 3 things, maybe they've got 3 things that you need to be doing in each to kind of get stuff or something. I don't know. But if they involve the downtime in it of you must be studying X or Y in your downtime to be able to qualify for this or that. I don't know. That's something I like to do in my home games, is base rewards upon what you guys do outside of combat. Because in combat only makes up a few minutes of the day when you boil it down. So, I don't
Excellent. Who's got the recording? How long are we at?
We are at 56, so let's get to the monsters.
Yeah, exactly.
Building monsters. Building monsters. I am so pleased, I'm going to say this right now, that the bestiary that they're talking, the playtest bestiary, is going to include 250 different monsters.
Woo!
And monsters and other adversaries. So that's like a full bestiary. That is a full...
Dear Lord.
I know, it's nice.
Giving me a case of the vapors.
That's...
As we're talking about this, I'm actually going to open my bestiary 1, and I'm going to count how many monsters are in that, because I'm curious to see how it stacks up. Because I think that's my favorite part about Pathfinder, is that like it doesn't matter from what corner of like weird occult fan fiction or Earth mythology or video games or whatever you want, like it has stats. You can kill it in Pathfinder. It is there. Like,
as
you're
a
like
GM,
Death Note,
I'll
the
say
Shinigami is like a CR-14 monster. It's here. We can fight it.
As a GM, I'll say you can try.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so it looked like there were maybe some changes to the Universal Monster rules going forward. Maybe to make them more modular than they already are. Like a good thing about the Universal Monster rules is it made them very modular. You could swap them out in between animals. You could just reskin stuff and slap, rules on it, and it would work. But it also looks like with a lot of the monsters going forward, they keynote a couple, the tiger, the owlbear, and the
zombies
some
and
kind
skeletons.
of devil,
And the barbed
Sorry?
devil.
yeah,
And Mariliths.
Mariliths, that's the one I was thinking of. The Wardens of Erebus. They keynoted some of those monsters as having signature abilities, and I think signature abilities are probably going to be a really big thing going forward. Monsters that possess one or more unique traits to them that are less unique, because in first edition we see unique traits on monsters, but they usually tend to be monsters that are like CR12 or higher, or like really sparse unique rules with stuff like pugwampies in the low CRs. But I think maybe going forward they're going to try and implement more of these signature abilities throughout the bestiary when they put it out. Maybe they won't be fully implemented with the playtest, but we'll probably see a good indication of the extent they plan to employ the signature abilities. And I'm excited about that, because they talk about the glyph stuff for the Mariliths and the difference in how tigers, or they're thinking of giving tigers like sneak attack damage. And,
Yeah, that's so good.
Because tigers are ambush predators, and giving owlbears like a sort of disemboweling attack
Now what they're doing
yeah.
is they're making owlbears relevant because, like, it's in the blog they say that an owlbear and a tiger are basically the same thing. And CFR, no, they're not. The owlbear's bad, the tiger's good, because the tiger has pounce, and the tiger has, like, the owlbear is just like it can grab you, and its con is good, and that's like, ooh, the tiger is just like it's the strictly better. But now the owlbear has debuffs, and the tiger has sneak attacks.
Yeah, but
Also, I
owlbear's
really
cool.
The owlbears are really flavorful. They hold a very, very special place right here. They always will, for reasons. And, like, I'm glad that they're playable now because, like, I could probably, against, like, in an adventure path where it's a 15-point buy or new players, you could use them. But, like, an experienced player who knows how to build a character is going to see an owlbear and just dead. Also, for the record, I gave up counting because we were talking. I went and looked at the bestiary box pawns. There were 256 in Bestiary 1, so we're essentially getting a full thing.
Yeah, it's basically a full thing. That is sweet. That is sweet. And going off what you guys are talking about, yeah, it looks modular. It looks like you're going to be able to tinker with it. It looks like customizing your own stuff is going to be even simpler than the universal rules right now, which is good, because most of the time when I'm making something, I don't care what CR it ends up at. I just, thematically, it has this type thing. I don't even worry about the monster rules or anything like that. Maybe this way, we might build some monsters live stream or something like that and say, this is what, we got a picture of this monster and we want to build it. So here's what we're going to do, or something like that. If it's as simple as it's looking. This also gives us an idea of how the future Kasatha, because you know they're coming, will work, as well as any other multi-attack, multi-headed thing, like the Hecaton Harries, like the Merilith. It highlights again. They have the ability to assign attacks in their actions in a certain way. If they want to deal a massive single target damage, if they want to deal damage to those around them, or if they want to make one attack and boost their AC, that's an option for the Merilith. That adds a lot of strategy without having to look at, oh, what spells do they have? What about the way that they can do this? And stuff like that. It does simplify how they're going, tying the way they spend their actions to the way they tying the way they spend their actions to the way that they behave in combat, from a thematic sense, is really cool. I like that. I like that
agree.
These monsters are going to feel like the monsters you see in the picture.
Mm-hmm. I also really like you were saying, how, like, it. I think it's the Nalfeshni in the blog, how it's like, oh, that has call lighting. You're not using that. And, I mean, you might. That's not the worst thing, but that's probably my biggest pet peeve, especially, like, and I didn't get to do as much of it as I wanted to do for you guys in Attack on Tree Razor because we ran out of time. So Tree Razor was an idiot and he hit people with axes until you killed him. I didn't get to use the spells I wanted to do, but there are a lot of them, and most of them are garbage. Aside from, like, Wall of Thorns, and that was the one I couldn't. There's no way we'd never get done in time. You guys are cutting through the shrubbery. I really like how everything's going to be, I won't say simplified because I don't think it will be, but all of the, like, the crap is going to be cut out, and it's going to have, like, this is good all the time, you have this. Mm-hmm. So, like, everything is, like, I remember way back, this is, like, when the playtest was announced, they said that the T-Rex would have the ability to, like, to essentially awesome blow you if it hits you with its bite. Yeah. So that's cool.
Especially if it decides to awesome blow you up. You could do that. I mean, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
You could just juggle you like a Tekken game.
Yeah.
And then all the fighters use their reactions to attack of opportunity, and it's all just great.
Oh, they're fighting in the air? Man, that would be so thematic. Yeah. They're slicing as they're getting smashed upward, and they're slicing again as they're coming down and getting smashed upward.
The monks snake way up the dinosaur, and jump and kick, and it's all amazing.
Yeah.
It's Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z. Okay. And I think that finishes us out, unless you guys have some more stuff you want to say about monsters.
The building monsters post was actually the one I had the least amount to save, so I'm good.
Okay.
I guess I will say, like, when I first started, as I'm going to contradict myself, but when I first started playing tabletop role-playing games as a game master, I had zero resource. I guess I had the internet, but I didn't know where to look for whatever. Someone had a 3.0 monster manual, so we played Dungeons and Dragons, and if I needed a monster, like, I remember I wanted to thematically have, like, they were lost in a Slender Man, because Slender Man was big at the time, woods, and they were going to find Little Red Riding Hood, who was going to be consumed by a wolf. She was going to burst through the wolf's head to form this weird horror tauric creature, and it was really fun to build and use. I think that will be a lot easier to do in second edition, as much as, again, I love, like, oh, you want a Nuclavy? Yeah, that exists. Hold up. You want that weird wolf thing from Inuit mythology that will teach you how to hunt by biting you and eating your soul? Yeah, that's called an Amarok. That's what it's called, and it's right here. And everything in between.
You want a Wendigo, Kane? You want a Wendigo?
No,
we'll build a Wendigo.
No, I don't.
I think Wendigos have been around for a long time. I bet those have been with us forever and ever.
Wendigos are pretty cool.
You want a Froghemoth?
Yep.
I got a lot to say about a Froghemoth, but I wasn't here that week.
All right.
Rough.
So, I think that's everything, everyone. We appreciate you staying with us. We're only about 6 minutes over. Maybe we can trim something in the middle or something like that. But thank you for coming by. Tommy, anything you want to say before we go ahead and sign off?
I guess I will say that the 16 people for the Pathfinder send-off tournament have been, as of today, selected. They have, I don't know when this goes live, but they have till Friday to get their act together, and then next week we'll start putting the sessions together, so that should be coming down real soon on Black Dragon Gaming. There should be some PvP action for the glory of the Gorilla King. Also, if you're into second edition, we're running Doomsday Dawn because patronage has been so great over at Tommy's house. We're going to take 6 subscribers through it pretty much just as soon as that PDF's out. We're going to hit the ground running. If you want to, if you're interested in that giveaway, it's over on the channel. Patronage at any tier will get you an extra entry both in that giveaway and all the giveaways forever and ever. And if we can get patronage up a little more, around like $300 a month, I'll be able to run a second group of 6 through, which I'm super stoked for. Because as much as it's an adventure path, we all know that 2 groups will do 2 different things 2 entirely different ways.
All right. And I can attest that the groups don't always follow what they're supposed to be following.
They're constantly splitting up and going the wrong direction and heading to the tailor's where there's an Akorchi waiting for them.
That was not my fault.
Beaten to death.
You guys were supposed to go there together and shop. And then he wouldn't have attacked.
Might have killed us all.
Nah, he wouldn't have attacked with everybody. He wanted Samus. But, hey. Well, technically Vince was tied to Samus, so he wanted Vince and Samus. Vince was kind of just a bonus. But that said, that's something from a past campaign. Maybe sometime we'll do a D&D stories where we go through that first campaign that we had. But
there'll be a lot of notes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It will be. All that said, thank you for coming by, travelers. We hope you enjoyed yourself. Have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
Bye, and thank you, Donald, for joining us, even though your microphone wasn't working.
Yeah, I see you over there, man.